Hello, everybody. This is Earth Medicine for the Soul. My name is Oakwalker, and I'm here with my compadre Stronghorse. Say hello if you like.
Hello, hello.
And we're going to pick up where we left off. This is like our episode for discussing the fragile matrix that appears to be breaking down, episode number 2. So we're going to sort of pick up where we left off. And Frank was talking about approaching it from a different angle. So, what we were talking about in the last meeting was that we are in this huge consensual reality, and at different levels of it, some of those realities are the actual structure of the universe, and some of those realities are the actual structure of what we consider to be general reality. And then some of those levels are structures of belief structures that comprise our cultures and our mores and our core values. Those structures appear to have reached the fulcrum of their misogyny or inability to continue. Sustainability is the word I'm looking for. And so we want to talk about why getting back to this sense of deriving our wisdom out of nature and the natural processes is the anchor that we need to sustain ourselves through these tough times. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and just to build on that a little bit, a lot of times it's hard to keep things in perspective with so much negativity in the press.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we tend to think, "Oh my God, this thing's going bad and that thing's going bad," and you and I've had words about this with our elders council, and they responded pretty logically. They said, it's the press. The press is works on reporting the negativity. They don't report the good stuff because there's really not a lot of profit in it, you know.
Yes.
And so, I think, I mean, just to kind of give a little positivity of what's going on the globe this time. There's, I was listening to some of these reels on Facebook this morning, and I was thinking, man, 20 years ago, I would have never heard this ever.
Yeah.
I would these people would not have been talking about this stuff, and um, so and there's just a lot of people that are doing it. I mean, there's a lot of people that are tuning into this, particularly young people,
Yes.
and they really get a lot of bad press. There's just there's a growing consciousness on the planet that's that it just doesn't get reported. It doesn't get the exposure it needs, and I guess maybe that's part of trying to explain what we're doing. Is to try to
Yeah.
share with other people, like, hey, there's other ways of living your life, man, that you don't have to subscribe to the status quo, whatever that is. You can pick and choose your own path, and you should, because things will work out for you on a greater level if you're following your own heart, following your own path, and being willing to make your mistakes and learn from them, and not really give a hoot what other people think about it one way or the other.
Yeah.
The minute you drop into trying to align or be sure you're liked or fit in with it, yeah, it's when you lose your center, you lose your space,
Absolutely.
and uh, that's going to really become really important in this transitional time right now, because it'll be real easy to fall out,
Mm-hmm.
real easy to fall out. Like, oh my God, this is insane. I mean, I feel horrible. Nothing's going right, and this is when you just need to calm down, man. Just calm down, settle down, let it pass. All storms do pass, and
Uh-huh.
and wait for that rainbow to appear, because I promise you it will show up.
Yes. Absolutely.
So Why don't you talk a little bit about your water episode and how you worked with that over the weekend and how that fits into this?
Well, that's just it. In our last episode, one of the things that the little things they sing in the back of my head, like, hey, ooh, talk about that. Bing, 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 bing. And
Right,
and one of them was when we talk about this, we were talking about the drop of water in the ocean who thinks it's better than all the other drops. And
right,
how insane that idea actually is. I mean, it makes no sense
right,
universally or in any way of having a creator in the mix. It just doesn't work out for me. And it gets back to that idea that you can, push the river, or you can push the water into the shape that you want it to be, right? But you can pour it into a vessel and it'll take the
right,
shape of the vessel, but you can't just sit there and like go do this. And I know people are going to go, well, ice sculpture, but those are not sustainable. I mean, they're going to, they're very temporary, like a sandcastle. um so yeah, you can't the physical nature of the universe isn't something that you can just continually force into your own shape indefinitely. It seems to work in the short term. And this is where I think greed comes from. And a lot of the dysfunctional core values that we see coming to a head right now is that it seems to work when you impose your will upon others, and when you try to create on your own, putting your ego, oh yeah, there's that thing, putting your ego above everybody else, right? um Putting your ego above the creator, that actually does work a little bit for a little while. You have to work it at 10 times harder, but it works. You can do evil. It's allowed. But the consequences of that evil, they are going to come back and hit you. And that's the whole the bugaboo of the entire way that the free will structure of the universe has been created. So getting back to the water, um, we cannot really shape the water, but water is really the coolest of all the elements, in my opinion. So, because I'm a kind of a water guy. I'm a earth sheep, very calm, watery person. I have very little fire and air in my makeup, if you will, according to all the astrologers and all the other people who talk in terms of those kind of ologies. Um,
right.
so water, if you ask certain quantum physicists who like to try to equate all the things together, because obviously it has to, we wouldn't be here if a whole lot of that stuff didn't work together in some way. And they will tell you that water could be equated to the weak field in the electron or in the atom, right? There's four forces in the atom. One is electromagnetism, that would be air. One is gravity, that would be earth. One is fire, that would be the strong force. And one is water, and that would be the weak force. And the weak force, it works symbolically really well with water because it doesn't it isn't something that you can just carve into shape for yourself. It is so gentle, but it is that thing that wears down mountains over time. The constant erosion of water, rainwater, stream water, is what changes the face of the earth. And it brings down mountains, it brings down um, all the structures. It erodes everything away very, very slowly, being the softest and most pliable force of all of the forces that we talk about here, right? It's softer than earth, softer than fire. So it infuses all of life. Water does, and it also is the perfect solvent. So water is the thing that we go to when we want to renew things, when we want to clean things, when we want to baptize ourselves. And the original sense of baptism wasn't it wasn't originally intended to allow babies to go to heaven, even though they knew nothing of heaven. Um, the original purpose of baptism was an adult. We talked about this on the weekend. It was an adult ceremony that you undertook when you were ready to leave the past behind, to leave your old non-functional values behind, and turn while in the water, turn around and step back out of the water. And with each step you take, you announce your willingness to devote yourself to a higher purpose, to the service of the Creator, to the service of the earth, to the service of the um, community, right? So as we were stepping out of the water, we left that all of that stuff behind us. And I found this is my fourth baptism. It's the first time I ever did it for myself, right? The first time my parents did it to me, the second time I did it to impress a woman. That was the Southern Baptist one. They didn't like me at all. So I didn't stay with them. And then once I did it in a more of a pagan ceremony, but there again, it was just to try and learn the ways of the system that I was in. And I wasn't really doing it in a way that I had every intention of doing a ceremony that I could literally glom onto, that I can cling to in my consciousness and look back on and say, you know what? I'm feeling bad about my childhood again right now, and I don't have to do that anymore because I did that thing. I did that ceremony where I turned my back on it and washed it away from my life in the water. And now I'm moving forward into a new light. And that's a very powerful thing to do. And I suspect that as we move forward, we're going to be able to see people finding similar ceremonies to these. It doesn't always have to be baptism, but as we keep talking about this pursuit of a higher, I'm going to say higher consciousness, um, people are going to find ways, their own ways, by following their own heart to achieve this threshold of acceptance of themselves and the fact that they don't have to walk through the mud anymore. They can wash that all off and move forward into a new process. This is a very
Yeah,
healing thing.
it's interesting while you're describing that. I had a house down in Mexico for about 10 years, and I've basically hiked all over the Sierra Madres. And when I would get out into the places where man had either not been or very few had been,
Mhm.
um, the pristine, what we call the crystalline matrix,
Uh-huh.
was there, and it was one of the most impactful times of my life. I mean, it
Mhm.
just, I couldn't believe how incredibly awesome it felt. I mean, when you move into a space that's in balance, man, there's just absolutely no question of what's going on. And
Mhm.
so I would immerse myself, most of these were in valleys with rivers. And so I would immerse myself into those rivers and I would call forth the spirit of the river and it would show up and almost invariably it would be feminine,
Mhm.
and so there was a baptism in that um, respect, in that I was aligning myself and showing respect for that spirit of that river and
Mhm.
the pristine nature aspect of everything that was there. And um, I just have I just I the it's hard to find anything that's comparable to that, in the Western world,
Yeah.
because uh, we've either polluted everything or psychically polluted everything, or
Mhm.
and so I think maybe what's evolving out of this water discussion is that there's going to be there's going to be a purification. The Hopis have talked about this forever, that the
Mhm.
day of purification. I believe there's going to be a purification of the psychic pollution,
Yes.
the psychic pollution that we've created through all this effort that we've been making through years and years and years of coming up with all these rules and laws and religions and organizations and corporations and blah blah blah, all these things that we've invented to try to make ourselves feel okay with being disconnected.
Right.
you know
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's,
I'm sure
it's
this is going to be good any day now.
right. I'm going to work it
you know
out if it's the last thing I do.
I got to go to the bank.
So,
Oh my God.
and so,
Yeah, so there's no,
keep
go
going.
ahead.
So, well, okay,
Well,
because
as you say, there's no,
yeah.
go on.
All right.
You
There's
got
a
it.
thing that Mateo said this weekend. My friend Mateo is a brilliant, brilliant communicator of all of this kind of stuff. And he used a phrase which is beautifully symbolic for a river flowing, by the way. And he said that crispness of being at the edge of the ever emerging here and now, the ever emerging present. So there's that crispness of being right at the edge all the time of the constantly emerging present moment. And uh that is the allowance of all of the beauty of the universe. That is the washing away of your stress and mistakes, right? So anyway, I just wanted to get that phrase in there because when he said it, I just went, oh, God, I just love the way he expresses this stuff. It's so beautiful.
Yeah,
You,
I think that living in the moment is going to become the norm,
I hope so.
very soon, very soon. And it's interesting. Colleen and I like watching Love on the Spectrum, which is about these people with autism trying to create relationships with one another.
Oh, that sounds
And
like a wonderful program.
oh, it's great. And so I told Colleen, I says, it's almost like they're in double moment. you know, so they're so, I mean, they're such an open book, they're just, everything to them is just like right there and it's just honest and it's truthful and they're a double moment, and
Uh-huh.
so the way they do things is hilarious, and like there was one guy and he's in there with his family and stuff, and and he's telling him about this date he had, and all how difficult it is for him. This and his brother says to him, he says, "Well, he says I could teach you a few things," and he goes, "That's a hard pass. That's a hard pass." And he meant, I don't mean actually physically.
Right? No.
Oh my God, I almost fell off the couch. So, I think that we're gonna, I think I always, in our path, we consider people like that to be sacred,
Yeah.
because they're presenting to us something that we're not willing to look at,
Hmm.
and so usually there's a huge teaching in it in terms of what their gifts are. What, we don't look at it as they're mental retarded or they're handicapped or anything. We see them as messengers,
Yeah.
and the message, and it's up to us to interpret what that message is and to abide by that in a way that is constructive. And
Hmm.
so I think that that is really going to, as this matrix continues to break down, I think that is going to become more and more prevalent with
Hmm.
everybody. And that the challenge is going to be, can you be in the moment? Can you be fluid? Can
Hmm.
you be the water?
Yeah.
Because it's only through, if we're going to purify, the environment's going to become purified, you're going to have to become purified.
Hmm.
And for those who resist, who don't want it, they're gonna have a hard time. And I firmly believe there's going to be a separation of the cream from the milk here,
Hmm.
and for those who who do know, understand love, that practice love, and that do it unabashedly and
Yeah.
unconditionally. That these the times that are dawning on us are going to be miraculous, literally
Hmm.
miraculous
Hmm.
for those who are holding on to the old patterns, the old constructs, and the old, well, this is all flim flam and crazy stuff from crazy people. They're going to find that they're the ones going more and more insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
You agree with
And
that?
I do. And the tragedy, and I actually also think that eventually we're not going to even be able to see each other. It will be so far apart perceptually that we'll we'll will fall out of sight from one another or rise out of sight. Some of us will be rising and some of us, but I think that at certain levels, the perceptions change and you just those people just don't come into our reality anymore. But
Well, do you believe? Let me ask you a question. Do you on that? Do you believe that there's parallel universes?
yes,
In
I
other words,
I
you
hate to
believe there's
think in okay, so I don't like that word believe.
right, right.
I don't have beliefs. I have experiences. And
Okay. Have you had?
I have had experiences that are completely in an alternate perception from the one that you and I are sharing with one another right now. And
Yeah.
so it makes sense to me that based on those alternate perceptions, that the more we uh, shift our choices into one form of perception, that we will shift our way over into what you might call a different reality. Um, I also think that I exist on another plane because there's these ghost cats and humans running around my house that I occasionally notice. They
Right.
look like little
Right.
ghosts, and I think it's me and Jenny, in another in another
Right.
parallel universe, if you will. And once in a while, I can see through that veil, and they're not always doing exactly the same thing I'm doing. For example, they might be eating dinner at a different time. I'll see someone cooking in the kitchen and then go, oh, wait a minute. So yeah, things like that. They have a couple of cats. One of them is a black cat, and they don't have any dogs yet. This is something I know because I experience it on a regular basis. Um, and I think that as we move deeper and
Well,
deeper and deeper, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
As we move deeper and
Well, I
deeper
was going to
in,
say that.
uh-huh, there must be a
I was going to
delay on
say,
this thing.
yeah, I was going to say that, I refer back to that ceremony I did where we had to find our physical double and out in the
Uh-huh.
desert of Joshua Tree, you know, and I did, and they had to come from somewhere, you know. I mean, that physical double had to it manifested. It had to be somewhere before it manifested, and it had to go back to somewhere. So, there's got to be, you know, there's something going on here in terms of two worlds existing simultaneously.
Yeah.
And and if the matrix in the old world is breaking down, there's going to be a greater exposure to a new world, however that looks. And look, I was thinking today, I mean, this sounds kind of almost science fictionist, but we live a life that's basically most people would consider to be science fiction. I mean, we really do. Any practicing shamans got stories that would just people would roll their eyeballs. In
Hmm.
fact, you know, my teacher Swift here, he was did a lot of stunt work in Hollywood, and so he knew a lot of people in the business. One of them he knew was Martin Scorsese, and he contacted Martin Scorsese because he wanted to see if he'd be willing to do a movie about his life, you know. And Scorsese told him, says, well, "Yeah, if you're willing to make it science fiction," and it pissed him off. You know, he's well, I'm not with science fiction. You know, I mean, and so that project never moved forward. But you know, so but we do sort of live a science fiction life. I mean, it's really true. But I think anybody that's on the front edge of change, of exploration, of wanting to connect into a higher state of consciousness,
That's it.
they are in a state of science fiction. They are. You can't escape it, and you can't try to make it normal. And there is a separation of worlds. I mean,
Mhm.
absolutely there is.
Yeah.
The trick you and I've had to try to master is how do we exist in both of them and be okay in that?
Yeah.
You know, that's very unusual. I
Yeah.
think very unusual. And that's why they call us bridgers, because we've chosen to do both,
Hmm.
and to find a way to bring these two things together. You know, I've had students that, through the years, and they've said to the elders, like, I want to go be a Buddhist monk. I want out of here,
Right.
you know.
I've had that
And the
thought.
elder's like, no, you can't do that. You gotta, this is a different thing, man. You can't just go climb into some cave somewhere and be uh, holy man.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
why not?
unusual, man. Yeah, why not? So, I mean, we really are kind of at the precipice of a new dawning, and we're the bridgers of it. And there's a responsibility in that, a very, very high level of responsibility. And I think that what you and I are discussing right now, how do we form that? What does that look like? What is the way that we create our intentions and live our life in a way that allows both of those worlds to come together in a harmonious connecting link.
Hmm. Hmm.
Do
I
you
have
agree
to
with
admit,
that?
I've been a little gun shy. I feel like I've been trying to do this now for a good 14, 15 years. At once I thought I had something to share, 4 or 5 years of study, and I thought, yeah, you want to know what I know? And the resounding response from the world has been no. I don't give a shit what you know. And so here we are, and people are really coming alive around all of this now, and
Right,
we're talking about, well, maybe we should do a podcast. I'm going, what the fuck for?
right, right, right.
So, but
But
this
I
is
think
going
that,
very well.
yeah, it's going well. And I think that, I, again, it's timing, timing
Yeah,
is everything, man. It really is, and, um, we had to be able to pay our dues to be able to sit down and talk about this as easily as we do. I mean,
that's true.
really,
Yeah.
it's one thing to sit there and say, "Oh, I know this and I know that," but to make it into just a normal conversation
Hmm.
and to find humor in it, which we do,
Yeah.
to take it seriously yet recognize it as a serious thing. That's a talent, and that didn't happen overnight for either one of us.
No, yeah, and we've been actually having these discussions for quite some time now, and I'm only just now feeling comfortable with sharing them with anybody else.
Yeah. Well, it's hopefully we'll get a decent response from people, and they'll find some goodness in it, and some humor, and some
Yeah, I hope it helps people. Even if it doesn't, I'm still having fun with it. So thank you very much, Mr. Stronghorse, my good friend, for sharing these things with me.
my
Uh,
pleasure, buddy. I appreciate you being willing to sit down and talk to me.
yeah, this is way cool. Anyway, we're out of time. So here's my, okay. In closing, Thank you for your kind attention and for supporting us. I'm talking to the audience now. We have more resources available on our webpage at earth-ems.com. Thank you very much. Can't wait to see what they are, all
Thank
those
you.
extra resources.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everybody.